Hi, I'm Curious Vedan, and welcome to season 6 of my podcast. Today, my guest is Brinda Poojary, who is a research consultant for the India Animal Fund. Her expertise lies in helping the development of alternatives to animal testing. Hi, Brinda. Welcome to my show.
Hi Vedant, thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I'm really excited.
So am I, very excited.
So, Brinda, I'm curious to know what things are tested on animals and why.
So, everything that humans come in contact with, all the products that humans come in contact with, like chemicals and cosmetics, um, medicines which we consume, products like sunscreen, even things that are used in in toys or your stationaries, and anything that you touch and anything that you come in contact with has at some point been tested on an animal, or the ingredients have been tested on an animal. Cosmetic testing is banned in India, but otherwise, mostly everything that you come in contact with is tested on animals. And why are they tested on animals? Mostly, they're tested on animals to ensure that the substances do not harm humans, and also because there are more ethical issues surrounding research or testing on humans than on animals.
Yeah, but aren't humans and animals different?
Yeah, they are. I mean, even though a lot of the DNA of other animals are similar to human DNA, but still, even that difference, the difference between the DNA of a human and of another animal, even that little difference causes a huge difference in the way that the body functions, our body functions, and the way that we react to certain products, and the way that we react to what we are ingesting. It differs very differently, differs a lot from what animals would go through when they ingest a particular thing, or they're subjected to a particular product.
But how does animal testing hurt animals?
So, in various ways. So, animals are induced with human diseases, for example, because these diseases do not naturally occur in them. And then they are experimented on without any pain medications. Then they are also confined to these very small spaces, which is very different from their natural habitat. Then they are exposed to different chemicals to see how it affects them. In addition to pain, they are also in constant stress because of these conditions that they are in, or these experiments that they are exposed to. And they live a very short life because they are mostly killed after the experiments are conducted, but the intensity of their suffering is very high. They are put through a lot of pain, and they're put through a lot of different conditions which are very grueling and stressful.
Yeah, that seems really sad. Are there any companies or cosmetic items that aren't tested on animals?
In India, we companies are not allowed to test on animals. Cosmetics are not allowed to be tested on animals. This has been since 2013, and we are not allowed to. India is not allowed to import cosmetics that are tested on animals either. So any cosmetic that is manufactured in India, ideally, is according to law, it's not allowed to be tested on animals. Cosmetics.
Well, if it's not tested on animals, what is it tested on?
There are many alternatives to animal testing. For example, for cosmetics, there are these skin tissues that are grown in the lab. So the skin is the tissue that is grown in the lab that is subjected to either the components, or to the ingredients, or to the entire product to see how it is affecting the skin tissue which is grown in the lab. So that is one of the that's one of the alternatives that has been used by cosmetic cosmetic company.
We know that there's a negative impact on animals, but is there also a negative impact on humans because of animal testing?
Yeah, there is, because even though animals have DNA which is mostly similar to humans, a lot of their body functions and responses differ from that of humans. They are also kept in conditions that can be controlled. So, very artificial conditions that they are kept in, while humans are they live in different kinds of environments. Then the stress that the animals go through, even that affects the results of the experiment. So all these differences between animals and humans and the way that they are kept in a lab as opposed to how humans live in a day-to-day life, all of these differences lead to the results of the experiments also being very different in animals. So due to all of these factors, these results are very different. For example, chocolate, right? So, chocolate is something that humans love to eat. Most humans love to eat. But chocolate is not, I mean, it's harmful for dogs. So, if chocolate was like it was compulsory to test chocolate on an animal before allowing humans to consume it, then we would have never been allowed to eat chocolate. So, like that only, similarly, there are different products like medicines, like paracetamol and aspirin. They are all harmful for different animals. So, when they were, when these drugs were first developed, if they had been, if it was compulsory to test these drugs on animals, then they would have never been allowed to come into the market, and humans would have never been able to use them. So, like this, there must be so many life saving drugs for humans that may be declined during early stages of development when they are tested in animals, just because they don't show a positive outcome in animals. So, humans may be deprived of a lot of these life saving drugs. So, it does it does very indirectly, but definitely harms humans also. And there are certain things that may not be showing effects in animals, which have a very negative effect on humans, and then finally, humans suffer because of that. So in this way, yes, it has an impact on humans as well.
Yeah, imagine if I got sick or if I had hurt my arm or any other part of my body and I was in really, really big pain but there was no painkiller
Yeah.
because it wasn't safe on the animals. Maybe the scientists who conducted the experiment would have thought, maybe the animal didn't do so well with it. Maybe we shouldn't launch it to the market.
Yes, exactly.
So if those things were tested on animals, then we would have been in like absolute pain.
That's what we would have never been able to use these.
Yeah. With such negative impacts, why has animal testing continued to be around for so many years and used for so many products?
So there is a lot of fear about risking human lives. So mostly they are still around because of this fear. And secondly, because animal testing has been done for a very long time and it has also become part of regulations now. So it's very difficult to change them, especially if sometimes there are alternatives in place, but still regulators are not very convinced that they will work, even no matter how much success the alternatives show. So mostly there's a lot of fear about removing animal testing and using these alternatives. And also because alternatives are still being developed and still upcoming. That's why in certain cases there are no alternatives. So it's difficult to remove those animal tests. But there will definitely be alternatives, and not just alternatives but better human relevant solutions to all of these issues. So something that matches the human condition rather than replicating an animal. It replicates the human condition so that we get accurate results. We are able to find accurate drugs, effective drugs, and other medications, and we are able to predict the outcome of certain the effect of certain products on humans in a much better way and in a much accurate way.
Yeah, I wish people would just trust what the experts say.
Yes, I wish the same.
Because if they had, then there would have been so many more animals right now. Yeah, it's really sad.
It is, and animals wouldn't have had to go through this unnecessary pain, which doesn't really give accurate results either.
I've read about somewhere and I've also heard about this alternative called human on a chip. Can you explain how it works?
So there is this technology called organ on a chip, where the function of a particular human organ or a part of the organ is mimicked on a small silicone chip. So by embedding human cells in that chip and making the conditions in such a way that it mimics how the organ works, we are able to understand how certain drugs or certain chemicals will affect that particular organ or the part of the organ. So, for example, there is an organ on a chip called lung on a chip. So the lung cells, and if you cut a part of a lung and if you see it under what it will look like. So there is one layer of cells, then there is another layer of a different type of cell, then there is a layer of air, because the air goes into the lungs, and so there is this interface between the air and the liquid. So the they make a particular section on that silicone chip which looks exactly like this. And then they also, because the lung pumps and it is constantly because it's constantly go like pumping, so they also put mechanical force on that chip so that it behaves like the lung. And then because this acts very much like the lung, they also pass blood through it so that it constantly has blood supply. Then air is passed through it, so there's constantly air supply, so it starts mimicking the way the lung would behave. Then they pass, so for example, if they want to see how a drug would affect the lung, then in the blood they would they would pass the drug also to into the lung, into the chip. And if they wanted to see how certain aerosols or certain things in the air affected, then in the section in the section where the air is pumped, they'll put those chemicals to see how that interferes with the cells of the lungs, etc. And how um what kind of effect it generates on that particular lung, so in on that tissue. So in this way they mimic this particular organ, and like this they have created multiple organ on a chip. So what they are trying to do right now is combine all these organs on a chip to form a human on a chip, so that they can see how a particular drug or a particular chemical or a particular ingredient affects the entire body, and they make connections between all of these. So that is still in the working, and right now mostly a lot of people are focusing on these small organ on chips, or particular part of the part of the functioning of the organ. So that's what human on a chip is going to be about.
Wow, that's really cool. But doesn't doesn't it harm the humans if they take a chip, they take a cell from an actual human?
No, so for example, um, there are certain lung biopsies that are done from from during operations. There are lung biopsies that are done and where a diseased lung cell could be taken. Then there are other ways also in which people consent to give they are to give certain cells from their body. There are also ways in which stem cells could then be converted into these particular cells and then they can be embedded. So there are many ways in which we can procure these cells, which won't really be painful for the human.
That's good to know.
I'm glad. I'm
Yeah.
I'm just glad that I'm able to explain it in simple terms.
Yeah. What are the kind of alternatives that you are helping develop other than the human on the chip?
Other than this, there are also computational models. So there are, because there is so much data that we already have about the physiology of humans and the way that certain organs work and uh, certain components how they react with the system, because there is so much data that is already there. All of this can be fed into a computer, and then there are certain databases and certain programs in place which can predict, which can learn from all this data that is already there. And then when you put in certain inputs into the system, it can generate and predict what the outcome of a particular chemical or a particular product it is that you are developing, or um, that you want to understand or learn more about. So, in addition to all of the in vitro models that we spoke about, like skin tissue and organ on a chip, etc., there's also computational. So, a lot of artificial intelligence is also being used as an alternative for animal testing and to make the outcome more human centric and human relevant.
Wow, it's that's really nice that there are so many alternatives to animal testing, which, like you said earlier, is really bad for animals and of
Yes,
course humans.
yes.
What can my listeners do to help end animal testing?
Firstly, they can learn more about animal testing and they can spread the message, like sharing your podcast for far and wide. And they can also find out about organizations that are currently working on non-animal methodologies. There are certain NGOs also that are working with the government to delete certain animal testings which don't work, or to help the uptake of more non-animal methodologies and replace animal methods, so they can see which organizations are working for this cause and support them. If they are able to donate, then they can donate to these organizations. If they are students and if they are biology students, and they need to understand if their curriculum has something related to bio animal biology, then they can also ask for artificial models for animal dissection and make sure that artificial models are being used in education, and not live animals, because even that is not allowed in India. But there are many artificial models for animal dissection which they can make sure that their school or their college is providing. Yeah, these are some of the some of the ways in which your listeners can promote non-animal methodologies and also make themselves more aware of uh, of these methods.
Yeah, I've always wondered, how did animal testing come about?
Hmm. So there used to be so animal. The thing is, even humans used to be tested upon. Animals used to be tested upon, and even humans used to be tested upon centuries ago. But over time, there were more strict laws that were put in place when it came to human testing. So that's why when it comes to the ethics of human testing, there are a lot of laws around it, there are a lot of regulations around it. But animal testing still continued the way that it always did, animal experimentation. But with respect to animal testing being in regulations, that is a very recent thing. So I think somewhere in the 1930s, there was this sulfanilamide accident. It was because of which a lot of, I think, around hundreds of humans lost their lives. And this was in the US. And that time, there was a lot of protests and a huge outcry because of this. And at that point, the regulatory bodies there made it mandatory to have animal testing in place before any product is released into the market. So that is a history of how animal testing became a part of regulations and became compulsory for the for any kind of marketing of any product.
Wow, that's really scary. How
Yeah.
so many people lost their lives because something wasn't tested.
That's what they thought, that it was, that it's because of that they lost their lives, and that's the reason why they made animal testing compulsory. But as I said before, there are certain things that are fine for animals, but then they may be dangerous for humans also. So that is, at that time, because there were lack of resources and there were lack of proper technology and cutting edge technology, this was a solution that they that they put in place. This was a solution that they saw. But now, because there is so much technological advance, because there are so many alternatives and there is so much work being done in non-animal methodologies, it's time to change that. It's time for regulations to change and go in the direction of more human relevant non-animal methodologies.
Yeah, that would be nice. What got you to start working on this issue? What did you want to be as a child?
When I was a child, interestingly, and fun fact is that I was always interested in dissection, and yeah, and I wanted to take up biology just because I wanted to dissect animals. But then there was this time when I was in my, I think this was during my graduation, when two mice were brought to the to show our class, to show our batch certain things like reproductory organs or something like that, and we were asked to take care of those mice. So we started taking care of those mice. We named them, and we got quite attached to them, because obviously they have certain behaviors and then they respond to you. And also, one day we came to the lab and we saw that one of the mice was missing, and we were told that that mouse was dissected and was just for educational purposes, the mouse was dissected. And this was long back, this was way before dissection in for undergraduates was banned in India. So the mouse was dissected for our seniors to observe. And then we were left with one mouse, but we didn't think much about it. We were taking care of the other mouse. And then one day our professor came and told us that today we are going to dissect this mouse. And we were very shocked because we started becoming attached to the mouse, and then she dissected the mouse. And when she dissected, that's when something just hit us very badly, and we realized that this is an this mouse is it is its own being, right? It's an entity, and it has it feels pain, it suffers, it has its own behaviors, it has that mouse had a very different personality from the other mouse and everything. So we became very attuned to all these, to the individuality of the mouse, and maybe that's why something hit us, that this is not just this animal was not here just to be killed for in order to educate us. There could have been a better way to do it. So that's when that hit me, and I started realizing that I don't want to dissect any animal again. And um, and then in my master's also, thankfully by then we did not have to dissect anything in my master's program. And then when I was doing my PhD, I made it a point that I would choose a topic where I did not have to use animals or dissect any animals or use any animal products also. So I tried my level best to convince my PhD guide to not let me work on animals. So that's why because my PhD is in human male infertility, and I used to work as an embryologist in an IVF lab. So we used to get discarded samples which I used to use, and in that way my PhD did not have any animal testing in it. And during around that time I turned vegan, and I saw a lot of my peers were working on animals, and I thought that I want to do something with my education which helps animals in labs and promotes the use of more non-animal methodologies. So that's when I completely left the field of embryology, and I started working for animal advocacy, and mainly for animals used in labs.
Wow, can you tell me more about was it embryology?
Embryology is so do you know in vitro fertilization, test tube babies?
No.
So this is where in a lab um, we artificially make embryos from human cells, and then we put them into the uterus so that the woman gets pregnant. So the egg and the sperm are taken out, and in the lab we fertilize the egg. And then when the egg gets fertilized and then the embryo starts growing, we implant the embryo in the woman's womb, and then she may get pregnant. So that's artificial insemination or assisted reproduction. So I used to be an embryologist who used to do that. That's what I was doing for 6 years before I got into animal advocacy.
From doing that, after you went to helping animals, did you do another PhD or did you do
No,
or
no. Sorry, you were asking?
so did you after you switched to helping animals, what did you do?
I used my research background to because I was heavily into biological sciences. I was able to use my research knowledge and my background with research to help animals that are used for experimentation. So that's why I chose this field, because not a lot of people may have the expertise and the understanding to work towards promoting more non-animal methodologies.
Wait, so you when did you start working on this?
In 2018, I joined Humane Society International India, and I was heading the research and toxicology department, which works to end animal testing. So that time I would collaborate with scientists, with industry stakeholders, and with regulators to promote more non-animal methodologies and to end certain animal tests which are not required or which are very obsolete and useless now, and or which may have alternatives that are way better.
So you used to work with my dad, right?
Yes, I used to work with him.
Yeah, I remember. He left 1 year after that, right? In 2019.
Yeah.
What are your hobbies?
My hobbies are watercolor painting. I play the keyboard. I like cooking, and I also like gardening. So, yeah, mostly these are the main ones that I do on a regular basis. But I also really like trekking and hiking. But I don't get to do that often. I wish I did.
Yeah, in Singapore, sometimes like super duper rarely, we
Yeah.
like we go to we do like long walks around the park. Otherwise, like just today we went on a cycle ride. Like otherwise we just go on cycle rides or we go to parks.
Yeah, I love cycling too, but because the place where I'm staying, it's a little the terrain is a little hilly, so it's too cumbersome. And also here we don't really have dedicated lanes for cycling,
Yeah.
so it's
In,
a little difficult.
in Singapore you have so many parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a mountain bike, so even if it's like super rocky, I just
Hmm.
ride it. But it's rarely been like that.
What are your hobbies?
Oh, me? Well, I like swimming.
Hmm.
I like doing this podcast.
Yeah.
I like drumming. My drum set is right next to me.
Oh wow, when did you start drumming?
Um, like I think early 2021. Actually, no, like mid 2021 in August.
Oh, that's nice. So do you go for class?
Yeah, sorry, mid 2022, not 2021.
Last year. So you started going for class last year.
Yep.
That's nice. How's your Mandarin going?
Oh, yes, it's good. It's going good.
You I also like learning new languages. I
Yeah,
think even you like learning new languages, right?
yeah, I'm learning like Chinese.
That's nice.
Yeah, and I like cars
Hmm.
and I like playing sports.
Oh, that's nice. Any particular sport?
Well, sometimes in school, me and my friends play football.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it's cycling, swimming, like I said. Yeah,
That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, listening to you, I think I should try harder to continue all of this. You can see my cycles in the background, right?
yeah. They look nice. Are they mountain bikes?
They are hybrid.
Like my mom's.
Yeah,
Mine is only mountain bike.
that's nice. Maybe the next time I come, we'll go cycling.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so wonderful. The pleasure is all mine. I
Yeah,
loved talking to you after so long, and especially about my favorite topic, which is non animal methodologies. So, thank you so much.
yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for coming. I learned a lot.
Thank you. Even I had a lot of fun with you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye. Take care. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Dear listeners, follow my Facebook page, Curious Vedant, to get updates on my upcoming episodes. To listen at leisure on your phone and get notified about future episodes, Subscribe by searching for Curious Vedant wherever you get your podcasts, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can also listen to my show on CuriousVedant.com. Thank you for listening to Curious Vedant, and don't forget to rate and leave comments.